only location is Broadway and Pantano right now, and we're just a small out-of-network niche clinic. So we see a wide variety of everybody, but we take a fitness-forward approach is how I would say that that's different. So me personally, I see movement through the lens of kind of fitness. That's how I will do an assessment using our primary movement patterns. So squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, those sorts of things. That's how I kind of try to see where impairments are versus just we'll go into joint specific stuff, or I will in an exam, but if I haven't seen it, I don't know necessarily what's going on. So that's kind of the lens that I see. I love doing these coaches clinics. We're going to talk about modifying training during injuries. Joseph sent me a list of some questions you guys had, so I will punch list those at the end. If you have it, you just like at the end when we get to it, just like walk me through that. I'll cover some of it. I'll cover some of it as we go. Oh, my phone. I can grab my phone and run through it. But really, the goal of the day here is we're going to talk about why injuries happen, and then we'll go through the 4 primary patterns that people have knee modifications around. So squat, hinge, upper pull, and upper push. And we'll talk about how we use different modifications for different stimulus, which is really kind of the idea is that's how I work with people is maintain the stimulus of what your program is trying to do. Okay. Interrupt me at any point with questions or write them down and we'll cover them all then. We'll have lots of time for Q&A because that's kind of like the most important part of my thing. So really, why are we doing what we do? Because of chronic disease, right? So the biggest pushback, right, of getting in fitness, people think they're going to get hurt all the time, right? But I would much rather deal with shoulder pain than have any of these chronic diseases that are largely preventable. We've tried medication, everybody wants like a silver bullet, and the only thing that exists is exercise. The big levers: exercise, diet, hydration, sleep quality, right? But that's why we're here. So the solution really is in exercise and meeting these. So particularly I don't want to generalize like the population for a block, but knowing that it's kind of middle-aged to older adult, right? There's a lot of arthritis on board. The number one way to prevent or improve outcomes on arthritis is to meet general exercise guidelines because it's an inflammatory problem, right? So the biggest challenge I have as a clinician with arthritis is people get very like joint specific concerns and they're like, my knee hurts, so I don't do anything, right? I can't squat, so I'm just not gonna go. So now we're in this cycle, right? I'm gonna rest. Inflammation's not gonna get pumped out, I'm gonna get less fit, right? But we know that arthritis is an inflammatory problem. And the number one way to reduce risk of progression of that and loss of quality of life is to just hit pace. So 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, aerobic exercise, or 75 to 150 minutes of high intensity, 300 minutes of moderate physical activity. That, I look at that one and I say, that's my construction worker, right? Like I don't know how much more I can actually add to somebody who has a very like physical job, but if they're getting their 300 minutes. And then the bottom one is the hardest one, for whatever reason. I don't know why. I find it far more enjoyable, personally.
Are the top 3 oars and then the bottom?
Yeah, they're kind of oars, and then there's an
okay.
and.
Yeah.
So 2 days of resistance training. The hardest part in the arthritic and the like older adult people who haven't trained as athletes or been in a weight room is just the 60%.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, well, it's 5 pounds. I got 5 pounds.
Literally.
We just talked about this yesterday.
Did you?
It's like a whole tangent.
This is so bad.
Yeah. So
especially in this location.
what I will try to do is help you have some strategies where you can help make sure we cover it. I'm going to say it now so I don't forget to do it. Some strategies on how to like test that without putting load. It's like, how do I how do I build that for my client in a way that's not threatening, right? What strategies am I going to use to convince them that they are grossly underloaded? And that is the problem that I have in clinic. It's the problem that I had as a coach, is people underload themselves for fear of being injured. And thus, their body composition doesn't change, their capacity doesn't increase, and they're just frustrated, and then they drop off. They're like, well, it didn't work. Well, if you only lift at like 30% of your 1 rep max.
No, we would take 30%. We get like 5% here.
Okay. That's like your biggest challenge,
We're
is
like,
heavy
you know what's
loading.
bigger than a 5-pound weight?
What?
Anything.
Like my weight belt weighs more than that.
I'll do that next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
No.
next year.
So yeah, we'll go over some strategies for that.
That was per week, right? Per week.
Yeah, per week. Yep. It's 2 days.
Right.
I mean, I will go on a tangent with it, but like, yeah, it's hard. You have to, but the thing that you have to recognize is that you have to build that bike for them. It's like, you have to show them as they go that they're improving. So having markers that are testing them, but showing them where their ceiling is. Like, how to make something light, hard, or like convince them that they are not pushing themselves. It's like, because people don't understand, you're like, I want RPE. They don't have a clue what RPE means, right? Until you hit intermediate, it's like, you can't use RPE, and you can't use RIR, reps in reserve, with a beginner. You've got to like build the machine for them. All right, you guys fit perfectly into this, right? We're seeing more people get into exercise, so being able to manage them as they're new becomes really important, right? Because we're seeing older adults now know, people in their middle age know, if I don't start exercising, bad things are gonna happen. But they just need a good guide to get there, right? So that's really what we're gonna spend the majority of this on. How many people have lost a client to injury? A lot, right? So if you don't think that you're in healthcare, you are. If you walked in here today and you're like, I'm a coach and a personal trainer and I'm in fitness, and you didn't attach healthcare to that, my goal for the day is for you to realize that you are the front line of healthcare. For all of those chronic diseases that are preventable. I want them to stay here, I don't want them to come to me. Right? I want you guys to be so good at it that you put me out of business, essentially. Right? So if you don't think you're in healthcare, you are. So being able to work around pain is a really, really big thing. Because we know once people are in pain, their first inclination is to rest. Problem is, what happens with rest? Everything gets weaker. Okay? So this is a little bit about like training volume. We need to get people in this like sweet spot. So this is really from runners. Tim Gabbett, they looked at like acute to chronic workload ratio. The reason it's relevant for this conversation is there are the people who only do like 1 to 2 days a week, right? And so they're not exercising enough. They're undertrained, right? So they're not improving, right? Or they're self-limiting, like you're talking about, like they don't progress the load, okay? So this either bucket, red or white, is where injury happens. Most of the time we talk about this, they're like, oh, I should train, and then, you know, something comes up and they decide that they're gonna go hike 8 miles, and then they come in and they're like, my knee hurts. Right? Right. Yeah, so they're undertrained. That's like the classic weekend warrior. They're like, oh, I don't have time during the week, so then I'm gonna do all this stuff on the weekend. Or it doesn't even have to be hiking 8 miles. It's, I sat all week, I don't train, and then I decided to do 3 hours of yard work, and now I can't come in for my session because my back hurts. Or they're this person. This one on in the red, who they are is they're always injured.
Hey, I'm right here.
I was like, whoa.
They're always injured. They're the like, I do something 7 days a week. Sometimes I do 2 things a day, right? And it's this like,
We should have drove through with them.
right, yeah.
That was
So,
like the first thing.
this sweet spot here is, so they use the acute to chronic, which is the volume of exercise the volume of exercise in the past week compared to the past 4 weeks. Okay, so that's really one of the things you can look at. I think with members, it's the easiest thing to do is to say they come in, they haven't trained ever, and they're like, I only do 5 days a week. And you're like, well, maybe. What are we gonna do with those 5 days, right? So you gotta think not just frequency, but there's also an intensity component to that. And so, you know, that really the goal should be for people to do something 4 to 6 days a week. Injury history or research really tells us, you know, for the first few months, 3 days a week of like multi-joint functional fitness plus some like low zone 2 or aerobic activity is kind of the like
We're lucky to get that.
how you kind of move them in there. It's like they're here for 2 or 3 days and you're like, okay, now I want you to walk the other 2 days. And that's a good way of doing it, or cycling, or giving them the aerobic like zone 2, zone 1, zone 2, right? And then you can kind of move towards multiple, like you want to move weights for 6 days a week. Only. It can be done, it's just not too much too soon, too fast. Right? Questions on acute to chronic workload?
I have them, but I think I'll save them.
Okay. All right. Kind of talked about this. Injury is when your load, volume, intensity is greater than your capacity, right? Fitness, building tissue capacity, maximum recoverable volume, essentially, right? Peak, right? So we have this like extra stimulus, then we have that dip, right, where we have to recover, and then there's the super compensation, and that's when you train again and you just kind of move maximum recoverable volume up capacity. My job is to rebuild capacity of an injured tissue without creating further damage. Fine line. Majority of people have, I'm gonna say this loosely, majority of people who have a hard time distinguishing between pain and soreness. You probably run into that a lot here. The buoys that I will give people is, really, you should be, within 1 to 2 days, feel like you're back to your baseline, right? If something is not improving, that's probably we overloaded, or that's painful, right? But soreness and pain can be very hard to distinguish for people, so recognize that when you're looking with beginners. That being said, just rest is not the answer, right? Resting reduces work capacity. It increases injury risk for other areas. It's poor stress management. It's depression, it's social isolation. That's probably why the majority of people like to come here, is there's other people in here, they're not totally by themselves. Like that's group fitness. Whereas if we can find some way of loading, we get healing, blood flow, energy, hormone improvements, aerobic fitness, social connection. There is a link now. If you get injured and you think, I'm not gonna get better, you won't. They've studied it. But if you tell yourself I'm gonna get better, it's not gonna last forever, and you can convince them that movement is helpful, then people get better, right? So, just rest is not the answer. Always go to cardio if I can't move somebody. There was a study recently they did. They were older adults. 1 to 2 times a week, all they did was do 10 6-second bike sprint intervals with rest in between. 1 whole minute of bike sprint intervals. Blood sugar reduced, diabetes markers, depression reduced. I mean, that's literally all they did. Just gave rest intervals. 6-second sprints on the bike. 10 of them. 1 or 2 days a week. I mean, 6 seconds, it's like on an echo bike, you can't even get it going in 6 seconds. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be a ton when people aren't moving well, but like, you can use those sorts of things to try to make work feel like it's doing something. This is the hurdle that I have. I have an hour with somebody, maybe once a week if I'm lucky, right? Usually once every couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Problem is, they come in, their knee hurts. There are things that I have to do to that area specifically. In the hour, it can be really hard to challenge the rest of the tissue, right? So this is where like Onward and combining with coaches is super important to the rehab process, because I'm going to give them a like bodybuilding joint specific program, but the other part of it is maintaining the rest of them. Because the second it's like they're like, no, I'm just going to do this, but then they try to go back to their activity and everything else has gotten weaker, right? It's hard to do rehab and program for them at the same time, right? So having that connection for people is to really make sure I'm addressing joint specific or region specific, and then working with their coaching staff or their programmer to say, this is how I maintain the rest of you so you're ready to rock and roll. But also the stronger you are everywhere else, the faster you're gonna get better in your injury, right? Okay, so this is the biggest goal that I have working with people is altering their training program to not lose their stimulus. You send people to PT and the PT gives them plyometrics. Does that feel close to a deadlift? Right. So they come in and they're like, well, my PT said I shouldn't squat, hinge, or really do anything, right? That probably happened in here. They're like, I can't do anything. Right. And the problem is you're gonna watch this person,
Chiropractor.
right? You're gonna watch this person just kind of like decline and then they just stop coming. They get, I call it, what I call is they get stuck in rehab. They get stuck in rehab. Obviously we have to respect tissue healing, but there are so many ways to modify training so that we can maintain strength through the whole body, right? Okay. So that's gonna be the goal as we work our way through these patterns. This is how I look at modifying, okay? This is my punch list. I use them interchangeably, it just kind of depends on where the person is. So, it depends on the stimulus and what I'm trying to do. But this is how I start to modify things. Heavy isometrics are always on like the top end of my list because it's the number one way to develop tension without incurring tissue damage. Because there's no there's no eccentric, right? If you can use sleds, great, because it's concentric only, right? Like sleds can't make you sore in certain areas. I always find they make my calf sore, but that's because there's a lot of eccentric walking. But heavy isometrics are the reason they work is they develop tension. If you do a heavy isometrics well, they can buy people 30, 45 minutes of reduced pain activity. But they have to be hard. It's not a glute bridge. For some people it is a glute bridge, but largely for most people who have been training in here for a period of time, like doing an isometric glute bridge isn't going to be hard enough to develop enough tension in a muscle or even in the spine where then they're gonna get up and feel like they can move around and feel better. Okay. So we'll go over variations of that. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna ask, I'm guessing if you're talking more, not overcoming ISOs, but more just.
Not necessarily overcoming. I would say that that's later.
Yeah.
You know, I like heavy isometrics for people that are
Just yielding ISOs, like a bridge, but
5 by
floating.
45 seconds.
Right,
We're
okay.
gonna do an ISO probably for every movement.
Yeah.
Today we'll do one. Maybe not the pull, but we will do like in squat, hinge, and even press. So we'll go over isometric because they're a good thing to throw into the warm up where you can start to like get some tension built and reduce pain so that then they can exercise a little bit better. From there, you can change load and volume. That one's obvious. Range of motion and angle are probably the two that I think work really, really well in the population. It's just a matter of knowing how and when, and then changing the speed. Heavy, slow, resistance. So in the scheme of how you want to look maybe at loading from less irritating to most irritating with tissue, or the way that I see it is I look at, so there's isometric, right, because it's force development with no tissue length change, so the chance, like you're not going to rip off sarcomere heads and create damage. From there, we look at concentric, then it's heavy slow, which is any variation of tempo, right? But like heavy slow, resistance resistance, which is concentric, eccentric. So you're getting, you're making light weights feel heavy, right? And then from here, we go towards energy storage, which is eccentrics. And then you go to storage and release, which is plyometric. So having that in your head as you're working with somebody who's got pain, that's how I would work my way through. Or how well they tolerate isometric, how can I add just the concentric, right? Sleds. It's concentric. I mean, you can sled anything. Pull, push, right? Like if they really are irritating, you want to try some concentric loading with no eccentric, right? But yeah, so we'll kind of go through those. So, questions anybody wants to ask yet before we go into, we're gonna just go into patterns now. Okay, squat is probably the one, squat and dead we'll spend the most time on because there were a lot of questions about knees, right? Some sciatica stuff, so we'll spend a lot of time working on that. This is a good time to just interrupt me if you have somebody specific as we work our way through. So this was a fun study that they did. They let them free squat, and then they literally like blocked their knees so that they just could not have any ankle dorsiflexion. Which is just like, if you've ever low bar back squatted, it's like such an odd experience if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
But how you modify squat around pain is really dictated by what you're trying to change. So knees more forward or unrestricted, 22% increase of force on the knee joint itself, right? That makes sense. Like, it's more knee dominant. The more the knees go forward, that's biomechanics. However, blocking the knees increase the hip force 1,000%. Right? So I think about this is the person who's like, I can't squat because it hurts my back. Well, do you actually use your quads at all, or are you just like, good morning, your squat? Like, how different is your squat from your deadlift? Right? Like in patterning. So, you know, we think a lot about squatting for knees, right? But it's equally as important to look at what's going on from a joint perspective, from the hip and the back. Like, are we just getting totally overloaded through there? Does that make sense? So you can use the squat for either region. Their knees hurt, keep the shin vertical, right? If the hip hurts, like lift the heels. If back hurts, lift the heels. Just depends on what you want to do there. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Back versus front squat. How many people in your program do front squat? Fair amount? Okay. The other thing I would substitute in term for front squat with certain people is goblet squat. Similar, right? The forces, the loads in the front. Yeah.
I think about searchers for that.
For the knee?
Yeah. Or the same reason you anchor your load like a
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
You would say that I use those interchangeably,
Okay.
between searcher and goblet. I love searchers.
We got pad
It's
board.
so like underutilized.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love a good searcher squat. I also like a good landmine squat. To make like the grip element on the older adult who can't hold the like heavy kettlebell. Right? Because then it's like it's less joint pressure to have the palms, right? So people who have really arthritic thumbs, or they're like, I can't pick it up because it's too heavy. Good landmine squat them. So when do I go to a front squat? Right, when we have back or hip issues, because the torso has to stay upright, right? So there's less pressure through there. The back squat is good for upper back. You have a safety squat bar, so I would go to that. Not everywhere has a safety squat bar, right? The funny thing about squatting is knee pain is just, it can improve with either. Depends on what they're really dealing with. What part of the knee, those sorts of things. Height, right? So having a plan of how you're gonna work through that. Like, what am I gonna go to, right? Generally for me, I think about knee pain, I go, okay, I'm probably going to box squat you, right? idea when I'm using, if I'm gonna go bar or heavy kettlebell to maintain stimulus, is if I can squat them even to a higher box, but it's a box squat, I get to maintain the load on the rest of the body. I don't necessarily care about like using the squat to fix their knee pain. As a coach, that's how I would look at that. Like if their knee hurts, I'm gonna box squat them to a pain-free depth and just crank the load as high as I can. Which means it might go up higher, right? It might be more than the regular squat, but at least I'm getting load through the whole body. The spine is still having to stabilize, those sorts of things. Does that make sense? Maintain the stimulus of the point of the movement, right? If you're using these big patterns, generally we want them for like intensity. So take the irritation out of it, right? And load them up. We're gonna do this one. So you're talking about leg extensions. How many people have done a Spanish squat? Perfect, let's grab bands.
It's actually one of our go-tos for grad.
Love it, let's see
Yeah.
it.
Use it a lot.
Double yourself.
Huh?
Double it up.
Well, usually the full eyes.
Yeah, you're fine, you're right. You want
Might have one in the storage.
not big.
If not, you can have one of the purple.
I can't do the wax. You know you have one today.
While you're there, pants.
I love the turn left.
I love that. So I like those two setups. This setup here with the single, I like if the person has a lot of collapse in their squat as well, because they get to push out. If they're having just anterior knee pain, you don't necessarily, like if they have a decent squat but they're just like overloaded, anterior knee pain in squatting, you don't necessarily have to go there. The two are just as fine, like right behind the knee. Most important part is the lean and where you feel it, right? So the beauty on this is we can work range of motion, so you can do it as a squat or you can do an isometric. Depends on irritation and what you're using it for. Where would I use it as an isometric? In my warm-up, right? So let's go like a 30-second iso. See how everybody feels. Positions vertical. Pressing back through the balls of the feet. If you don't feel it in your quads, your client probably doesn't either. What'd you do?
He was telling us about this on the way over.
30 seconds.
You still want to maintain that. Try to get yourself a little, yeah, you've got a good lean. So think about that lean back. There you go. So you're really resisting it. If you feel like you're going to fall backwards, you just don't have enough tension, right? And then let's go ahead and stand. When you stand though, this is the terminal knee extension question. So everybody stood and like slingshot forward. You have to have enough tension for the Spanish squat to work. You have to have enough tension in the top where you have to lean back. Did you see how they're lean at the back, at the top here? Yeah. If you're able to stand upright without with your knees locked, you don't have enough tension. You need to be like resisting extension at the top. And if you're not, you don't have enough tension on it. Does that make sense?
Because we're trying to get them to determine the extension.
Totally.
It's just like a TKE.
You're doing this is a progression of TKE.
Yeah.
So if at the top they're standing upright and the knees are bent, you're not doing what you want.
Yeah.
It's that like I am pressed, lean, the quads are working the hardest almost at the top,
Yeah.
right? That's the terminal knee extension piece of it. And it doesn't matter how low they squat. If you're working just the terminal knee extension part of it, but it's about tension. So if you feel your hips on this, you're not doing it right. It's that kind of like, I call it bar stool sitting, right? So if you're gonna do it, it's like, you're trying to keep the shins vertical. Let's try like 8 reps. See if you can really get some tension on there. Find that terminal knee extension at the top where the knees are fully locked back. And then it's that I'm keeping those shins vertical. And the point is to stretch the band back and finish at the top. Drive the band back. There it is. That better there. Yeah.
So really just that, what tibial translation?
Yes.
Just taking pressure
Yeah.
off the patella.
Yeah. Yes.
You
It's,
know you're decreasing the Golgi tendon organ, like sensory input.
you're doing that part of it. I also find that it just forces tension to stay on the quads,
Right. So this that 22% that you were going to experience is now being decreased to whatever. you're-
putting it on muscular tension
Right.
versus putting it through patellofemoral.
Because of the shift in weight.
Correct. Yeah. Right. So you're keeping tension on tissue. Most of the time in knee pain, quads are weak.
Yeah.
So this is like accessory. You can use it as like warm up. See how if your irritability is low to moderate. Put it in there, but it's a lot. You want to do like 3 by 30 to 45 seconds. Hard in an isometric. You can vary the ankle when you have to do it. But then it's a good accessory exercise at the finish when they're not squatting very well.
Yeah.
You can still like get good quad burn in here for like volume.
2 things I know that we've talked about a lot, we'll focus on,
Yeah.
knee stuff, is full foot pressure and joint centration. And then when you're doing a Spanish squat, this is one that I've never bothered even trying to figure out, but you're shifting me back. So naturally you're not gonna get full foot pressure.
Right.
Or in theory you don't. Do you coach that? Do you watch that? Do you
What
care
I
what you're
actually
doing?
cue people is to feel like they're pushing through the balls of their feet.
So you still want that.
Because I want them like feeling like they're like I'm trying to use
Yeah.
that to cheat.
Yeah.
Because what they'll do is they'll do that, right? And it's still kind of like that's still very like posterior chain
Right.
versus like I'm trying to stay and keep that pressure.
So you're cool with
forward.
us not focusing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
I've
want
never
to.
focused on it, I just didn't know. I never have known.
The biggest thing I start with is I let them do a set and I say where'd you feel it.
Yeah.
And if they didn't feel it in their quads, then I start working my way through that. If they're really struggling with that, sometimes what you can do is like block their feet with like a heavy plate. So they have to like kick their toes into the plate just to give them the visual cue. Just like it's a wall sit
Right.
with band tension.
Right.
It's just harder, right? But yeah, usually the biggest faults I see is there's just not enough tension. And so their squat looks the same. And you're like, well, that didn't work. What didn't work is you didn't have enough tension. Like if they're not forced to lean, the other part is you'll see them. Can I hop in somebody's over here? Okay. I don't know what's, yeah. What you'll see them do is they'll come in here and they're like, I'm leaning. But my knees are flexed, right? And so I feel a lot of heel pressure because my knees aren't locked. Walk it back even further, and you can't have them start here. They have to be like, I'm being held by the bands here. Even for this, that's like, I'm still like, I
And your
want
quads are the only reason your knees are.
right. So squeezing back, they have that lean, so they should already feel quad before they even start to sit back. And I'm pushing through my toes at this point.
Okay.
And then as I stand, the idea is to stretch the bands back. That's the biggest cue that I give them is don't think about, I don't want them to think about standing up because what they'll do is they'll do that. What I want is the bands are gonna release a little bit of pressure towards the rig. That keeps me upright, and then I max out that band pressure at the top.
It's helpful.
Yeah. So it's like giving them something external, the bands, right? But like you can work just terminal knee extension here, but the Spanish squat gives them that chance to kind of like work their range. But if they're not here when they start, it's irrelevant. If they have like, if it's this, their squat's going to look like this because nothing's holding them up. Does that make sense? So it's usually more tension is the biggest fault. The other thing you can do is take the thicker band and instead of like doing 2, just go around 1. That way they're a little bit closer So it's like if they feel like they're gonna come out of pressure, they got something to hold on to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just put a box below them just so they're like, just sit down if you have a problem.
Totally. Okay. But more band tension and being in that lean and that full terminal knee extension at the top. Some people can be irritable enough that that's all you do. Is keep them in that locked out position, but man, not like poke through their quads because it feels so good. If you think that if they have anterior knee pain and it's right here, there's no point in starting anywhere but here. Right there. Okay? It's right there, start there. Other general knee pain, you're just gonna try it and see if you can just get some quad load to maintain blood flow to the knee. Okay. Split squat. I think it's like the most underutilized thing for most movements. Hinge or squat. Okay. Just depends on how you want to modify it, right? Torso upright, knee forward, right? You keeping the basically if their back or their hip hurts, you keep them upright. Right? The back's doing a nice isometric. You can challenge it. How would I challenge the back if I wanted to do, like, let's say their back hurts, we're gonna do split squats, they can tolerate a little bit of load. Put it in the front. Okay, don't set it on their back, because what they're gonna do is hinge forward. Keep it up, right? Okay. Lunging with knee pain, this is probably the one. It's like, you can split squat them. Shin stays vertical. Cue I give people is to think about their back knee. That's where you can still train the pattern, but they get to decide how much weight is on the front or the back leg. More pain, more weight on the back leg. Less pain, more weight on the front leg. But we don't see a lot of split squatting for, like in that forward lean position too often, right? But it's a good way of training the limb when they have knee pain. You can block the shin. You can even just give them an actual block. Put a box in front of them, right? Give them support, right? But you want to try and maintain that pattern for knee pain, right? It's like, there's nothing wrong with, I'm gonna come in here, they have knee pain and it's here, and it's basically them doing like a ski erg with a wide grip to keep the pattern. Because it's fear avoidance that I'm trying to work around, is keeping the pattern in some capacity so the body isn't like, I can't do lunges. How many people come in and they're like, I can't do lunges? Give them a ton of support, right? Ton of support, and keep the shin vertical. And it's like, okay, I just want to do curls. Or you can give them the TRX, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much they're actually using the leg, it's about the pattern to start. They have to have confidence in the pattern. So give them as much confidence and support as they need to execute the pattern, which is a modified single leg pattern, particularly for getting on and off the floor.
So like in that instance, would you prefer to support them with something versus telling them like put more weight on the back leg, or kind of both?
So both. What I tell them is, I go, okay, I did this the other day. I just put 2 boxes next to somebody. I'm like, we're gonna lunge. And they looked at me like their eyes were gonna fall out of their head. But what I told them is, I just want you, we're gonna separate, and I want you just to drop your back knee. Because they're gonna sit straight back, right? And I don't care about that because the knee hurts, right? But I'm trying to maintain the pattern. Because then if I maintain a pattern, I don't end up getting 6 months down the road with someone that's like, now I've got this whole host of like, I don't even know where to start with that. Is your hip that weak? Like, what's happening there? But if I can keep the pattern and optimize it with as much external support as a coach, that's all I'm really trying to do. And then the cyclist squat. This is like the best for the back and the hip. If somebody comes in and they're like, oh, my hip hurts in the groin, right? Or my back hurts and it's a squat day, you're just gonna float those heels as high as you need to, right? So their torso stays upright. Yeah, perfect, 9 on you. Use that, I'll use plates. what it is, but this is my go-to one for keeping people training when they flare up their back. Especially because I don't have the luxury of having a belt squat. That would be number 1. You can landmine the belt squat.
Yeah.
You get creative enough with dip belts and stuff like that, and you landmine and then they get back. It feels so good. But keep the torso upright. Put the heels up as high as you need to, so that they can stay upright. But that's back and hip. Knees are probably not gonna like that. Knees probably won't like that one. That makes intuitive sense. But he's even got a barbell front rack. I mean, go for it. They can tolerate it. Okay. Questions on squat? Specific cases or anything like that? Other modifications you guys use?
I just found, you're talking about like front knee pain on
Yeah.
split squat or reverse lunge. Similar to the back knee thing, like, I just need you to drop your back knee to the ground to maintain the movement pattern. I have found a lot that they do this like the knee hurts, so they do everything they can to not use the quad.
Totally.
Maybe not on purpose, probably not on purpose. But I found focusing on the back knee and then having them just think about front foot pressure and
Totally.
pushing through the leg, it's so much more engagement from the leg that a lot of times it just kind of resolves the pain and it keeps them in. That was just kind of something I messed around with because
Totally.
I watch people just go to push and sit back in their heel and their hips and all the way through. They're like, this hurts, I can't do this.
Show me what you see with them, and then I'll tell you
So
what
they're here. I'll do it here. I can show you. They're here and they'll step back in like the normal
Yeah.
weird, they get everything they can, they put their femur in their pocket.
Totally.
And then they come back like this.
Yeah.
Drag the whole hip
Right.
up. And any pressure on the heel forward hurts. But then just having them focus, like I'll put them in split position for the lunge.
Yeah.
And then back knee drops, but then on the way up,
Yeah.
I'll have them shift so they feel their hip more.
Yeah.
And then push.
Totally.
That's
I
what
think
I've
that's
used
great.
and-
Yeah, I think if you see that kind of like, that drive back is just like painful to watch.
Yeah.
I think whatever you find works for that person, for sure, but that would be somewhere too where I would give them like the hand
support,
support.
yeah.
It's just confidence.
Okay.
Right? You're offloading it. Like the capacity of whatever's going on there is just not to the lunge standard that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I mean, part of it is they lean forward, they
Yeah.
hinge forward.
Yeah.
It's not that the knee necessarily goes forward,
Yeah.
but they feel the stretch through the glute,
Yeah.
and then you're basically doing that split squat where it's like you're getting them to here,
Yeah.
and that's a lot more glute.
Yeah, and they can load.
It's like they're forward, but they didn't do
Yes.
that
Yeah.
because you're like, well, let's shift pressure to your front leg. All they do is that because they can't go forward,
Yeah.
right? So you're just doing a hip dominant split squat for sure.
So like, is there any detriment to using like a plate elevation for the constraint? So like, I'll throw a riser or a plate in that circumstance underneath the front foot, which is gonna tilt them back, and so it kind of takes pressure off of the front knee, pushes it back
Right.
without having to do it, but then, here's where I'm not sure. So then they take the leg, they switch, and so now the problematic knee is in the back, and so I'll then put the plate now in the back, our rear foot elevated. So front foot elevated when the knee hurts here, say it's my left knee.
Yeah.
Then I switch the plate and now it's rear foot elevated. So again, I'm shifting the weight, center of mass forward. So
Yeah.
I'm taking away from that pain point, but I'm only doing it on that one side because I'm trying to,
You're offloading the leg.
that's all I'm doing. But
Period.
is that gonna cause problems later on?
No. I
I'm
think,
trying to get the win of the pattern and then progress
yeah,
them.
correct.
Okay.
Right, the important part is that they keep the pattern.
Right.
Because once they lose it, it's like, I can't do
I
that.
just didn't know if I was inherently
No.
creating a different problem by
No,
doing
no, I don't think so.
that. Okay.
Right, at that point, it's like, they should be doing the other things to resolve the knee pain. So the point of the modifications isn't to resolve necessarily the knee pain, it's to maintain the rest of the body through that process.
And work on fear.
Right, and avoid, like, get away from fear avoidance of I can't do those. Because in reality, the thing that got you hurt is the thing that will get you better.
Yeah.
So the person who comes in, they're like, I hurt my back deadlifting. First thing you need to think is, I need to get them deadlifting in some
Not fast
capacity.
enough.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right, because what gets you hurt will totally. So no, I think that's fine
Okay.
for sure. They'll move away from it once they don't have Once it's
That's the
part of
goal.
it is it's like, do you get knee? It's chicken or the egg. It's like, did I get knee pain because I'm weaker on that side and I just need to develop like the balanced strength? Totally, right? That's the majority of people that come in. They are hurting already
Yeah.
because they are inactive,
Yeah.
right? The body isn't a stupid machine. It's like if you don't use it, you lose it. That's literally true. They did this study for like NEOA a couple of years ago, probably a decade now. People with known arthritis, they put them in flat, like barefoot shoes, and then they did the other half in Hokas and like air cloud shoes, and they let them wear them for like a period of time. The people in the barefoot shoes had less pain and better cartilage, and the people in the Hokas lost more cartilage because it's absorbing all of the impact. Joints have to go through range of motion. So really our goal is like, how do we start to work down? It's like, if somebody can squat that far on day one, I don't care. Fine, squat them to a 24-inch box, but give them something to like do,
Load.
right? Load them.
Yeah.
Okay, deadlift. Ugh, I love deadlift. I think it's the greatest thing ever. Okay,
Now you're talking my language.
if people ask me, they're like, what's your favorite lift? I'm like, deadlift. If I could only do one thing the rest of my life, I would deadlift because I do it every damn day. I'm a 4.5-year-old who's 50 pounds. Who's got an RDL shit all the time. So, my go-to modification on deadlifts at the beginning is going to be heavy isometrics, especially if it's back irritation. And it's the Chinese plank. Who has done Chinese planks? Okay, let's get, we'll get a couple of
Is it
stations.
the bottom right one?
Yes.
Oh,
So we're
I
gonna go
see.
here, Chinese planks.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get 2 stations, and we'll like let somebody work, a couple people work their way through. But we'll get 2 benches that span each other.
Oh,
Okay.
It's like a floating hamstring
It's-
God, that's like,
I
It's
used to
so
pull this,
good.
I was like, oh,
looks
she's
a
like, I don't know what
little
this is. And I'm
painful.
like,
Like boxes or benches will be more
You
comfortable.
want benches.
But like we'll set a couple. We'll set up a couple of stations. Let's bring that bench over here,
oh my
We have
God.
and I'll demo.
We have more boxes, so we can set up 3 stations, so 3 backs on the
Okay.
things and then boxes
Perfect.
on the feet. Yeah.
Whichever works, but like let's get a bench set up here. All right. That's too close.
Everybody says the Eastern Europeans
That'd be
make the
heel
worst
versus
exercises, but China takes it.
Oh my god, man. Well, not that easy.
alright, I'm
Not
all.
make this put it down.
I'll put it down.
Just put it down. We'll move it over.
Hardest part is
Okay.
distance.
Yeah, we can do that. Just we'll go people on the side. So, Chinese plank. This is the cue I give people. I want you to tighten everything on the backside of your body because inevitably they'll be like, "Am I doing it right?" Okay, cool. Until you do it, you won't be able to coach it. So you're gonna go shoulder blades on one bench and then heels on the other. Okay? So it's here and then here. I will tell people, here's your little headrest. Okay? Because they're inevitably gonna do that and be like, this hurts my neck. So now what I'm gonna do is just drag my hips to the ceiling. But I'm also keeping my ribs down. Because they'll be the really flexible person that'll do like this hyperextension. I don't want that. Their back hurts that might be extension intolerant. So it's glutes and abs, like glutes and ribs come together. So I'm hiding my tailbone to the ceiling, moving my ribs down. Here. Highly irritable, body weight, 45 seconds. But it's usually pretty well tolerated by most people. Do I keep it in their rehab plan for a long time? Yeah, because I want to put like their body weight in plates across them.
Yeah.
So for the
Ethan's gonna
people
do
in
it
the
for you
room
next.
that are pain-free, have somebody drop a 45-pound plate on you.
Alright.
Let's try to go for 30 or 45 seconds. So spot yourself on the clock. So you want to hide your tailbone and bring your ribs down. So hips up just a little bit. There. And then go hands in.
I know, I thought that too.
Is the timer starting now?
Where I can actually move my hips a little bit. Yeah, thank you. I think next to you.
Hi, Bond.
So tailbone and then ribs.
Give me a plate,
Slap.
brother.
There it is. And try to do it without one.
Give me a plate, brother. Alright, got you.
Just sit on
And then keeping my ribs from flaring up, and everything stays neutral. That's not even heavy.
Where do you want it typically?
This is not pinching anything, but like that's what I tell people. I'm like, I'm just gonna lay this and let you adjust it, so it's not pushing anything. But across the span of the hips, yeah. So just lay it right across the hips.
If I'm feeling this in
Oh,
my
this is
low back,
gross.
or
You should be feeling it in your low back.
This is gross.
should or should
You
not?
should, yeah.
Okay.
It's a pump to the
I thought
low
it was
back.
gonna go to my ass.
If that's where your weak spot is, you'll feel it go through
Alright.
the low back.
Shaylin, your turn.
Okay?
Tag your hand.
Chill. I kind of like this.
You're
Or
weird.
if I played.
Got problems.
I don't know. I liked it. I
It's
thought
probably like twirling.
the box definitely needed to come closer because I was like,
You feel like you're gonna fall off.
well, the edge of my shoes were like holding on. So
Right.
If I get any
So like the idea is, could I break this?
And you're driving your heels as hard as you
I
can.
am.
Right?
Oh my
Like
God.
we're looking
Oh
for
my
it
God.
to be hard.
Yeah.
Right? The idea is to be challenged. So, feeling glutes, hamstrings, lower back. It's like get in there and like challenge somebody.
That's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's enough.
Honestly, it's one of these like this is kind of like that low hanging fruit exercise. That if somebody comes in and they've had a history with low back, you might just throw it in their program to start. Like body weight, just let them build some like endurance.
We don't have this on video. We didn't start
Should
filming
film
these.
right now.
With all of us in
So,
it.
we have a good question.
Okay.
When one side starts cramping more than the other,
You're not working. You're not working.
well, there's an asymmetry. What does that tell you as a PT?
There's a weakness on one side. I probably need to suitcase carry that person.
All right.
Yeah, that's how. At least that's how I would look at it. Like there's a weakness on one side,
Very loaded.
but I'm not sure which one it is. Am I cramping on the side that's more active?
Right.
Right. That's what I start to look at. That's why I go suitcase and I
yeah.
kind of see what happens.
I should do these more often.
It would. I would probably put it in the.
I'm gonna drop that $1,000 shit.
But you're trying to keep.
I don't think I need it that bad.
So they're just trying to get.
See, that's what I said. I felt more hamstring than anything.
Like everything adds that type of like for sure. I think about like I'm doing a max glute contraction. I'm not lifting my chest to the ceiling.
Actually, this is the worst.
Okay.
Hamstrings.
Same thing with people who get thrust.
It's a great way for posterior. It's good posterior chain activation in general. What it's doing is loading up the spine in an
Would you do
isometric.
like one set? Would you say this is
No.
or three?
It depending on how you write your warm-ups. Most of the time, right, when you do 2 to 3 sets, you're looking for 45 seconds. If you do it for each round, you can have them fill.
It's all hands.
Yeah.
You feel it in your lower back a little. So
Yeah.
it's nice. Like now I can feel it. So if
I
I
don't
pinch
have a lower
forward,
back,
I can
I'm
feel that my
all
lower back
close.
actually did something.
Yes. It's. I think it's one of those like big accessory exercises for building low back. 'Cause it's like 83% of people in fitness have low back pain. But the problem is we sit here and we go, we gotta do core exercise. I'm like, what do you mean?
You mean good morning?
If you hurt your quad, we do quad exercises. If you hurt your shoulder, we do shoulder exercises. If you hurt your back, we do ab exercises. Does that make sense? Why? No, you have muscles back there. You need to use them. This is a good way of starting there, right? It's non-threatening. It's pretty.
People forget they have low back muscles though.
Right, so you've got to work on
Mine
that.
is
Now, other
sometimes.
isometrics you can do when people are less irritated or they're getting into like deadlift patterns. These are the like positional ones. So rack pulls, but like she has the bar under the hooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going like to the weakest spot, yeah, the overcoming, right, and getting them. What you will find is people won't feel that in their back because what they do is they do this so they don't load their back.
Oh.
Right? So you gotta find that like now we're talking about bicep training good hinge.
You done a search for isometric? Overcoming isometric? I literally did that 2 weeks ago.
No,
and
but
it
it
was
would
the
be
biggest.
murder.
Oh.
It literally created that better than anything else I've ever felt.
Yeah, totally.
So literally like here,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
trying to get 40 seconds, and I was like, oh my gosh, everything felt
For sure.
amazing, and I've never done it
Yeah. Yeah.
before.
It's a
You
good
need
place of like
There's
getting right. that's incredible. I love that idea. But yeah, like, so the rack pull, but under the hooks is a good way of working kind of that weakest position of the deadlift, right around the knees. That's where you would set the,
Yeah, people who had knee issues, back issues, like everything, not one person complained while doing that.
totally.
It was fascinating.
I have a specific to myself question.
Yeah.
So my SI will slip, so then I have like low back issues. I think you and I were actually talking about that in person. This seems realistic for something like that. Like,
Yeah.
you have
And you
clients who have
can,
that same problem.
yeah, so to answer your question too about the asymmetry, I would put people who have like, the question with SI joint really is, it's very stable, so why is it happening? A lot of times I think that's just a poor back exam. Like, it's like L5, S1, or just like
I think it's just a
referring
cop
right
out. I
there.
mean, you get 3 degrees of play.
Right, and then but the glute max attachment is right there.
Yeah.
So that's where I go to. So I might Chinese plank, but have you do alternating leg lifts.
I was about to ask about single leg or alternating.
Yeah. So usually
Right?
for,
Because it's that kind of like,
For a lot of
now,
guys, yeah.
for lower irritation, like for people who are not as strong, or it is irritated, then I would take them to like a hip thrust, the top of the hip thrust, and have them bridge, like march. We're gonna talk about hip thrusts,
Yeah.
but yeah.
As a big picture for isometrics and kind of like tying back to what you said about beginner clients,
Yeah.
I think we all don't know what RIR is or RPE. They don't
Totally.
even know how to, they can't or don't know how to produce a lot of force.
Yeah,
Would you ever use isometrics to like teach them, just like pattern them into like, hey, this is what really high effort feels like,
totally.
and then we'll go into like 3x10,
Totally.
but I need this to be what that felt
What
like.
I would use them for, not necessarily Chinese plank.
Yeah, yeah.
Chinese plank is somewhere where it's like my back is irritated and it feels stiff coming in,
Yeah.
and they're like, you're doing like a cardio warm up, and then you've got the Chinese plank, which is
Yeah.
area specific, and
Yeah.
then suddenly they can squat and bend forward.
Yeah.
What I will tell you though is using things like rack pulls and bent over row isometric is where you can find out as like a primer to your main movement, what are they actually using?
Yeah.
Because if I put them in a bent over row with a barbell, an empty barbell, and they don't feel it in their back at all, I know they're not in a good hinge.
Yeah.
I know they're like this.
Yeah.
And so it's all quad specific.
Yeah.
They're staying away from loading it. So it's like push the knees back, have them do that, right? It could be like a bent over row in that RDL position is a great primer for deadlifting, because if they don't feel a little bit of lower back work, glute and hamstring, you know they're not in a good deadlift.
And that's I kind of want to ask a
Yeah.
specific question just for everybody that like, would you agree that deadlifts, bent rows, rack pulls, any posterior chain exercise like this, it is normal and expected to feel your muscles feel that same burn in your lower back when you're finished?
Totally.
Okay. So when someone says like,
Totally.
I feel this in my lower back, the question is like,
What are they
what are you
feeling?
feeling?
The follow-up question is, okay, I want it to feel like fatigue.
Okay, yeah.
And then the thing they walk out the door with is, I want you to tell me how you feel after you sleep tonight.
Okay, perfect.
That is that's the kicker. Because it's like, yes, you're working your lower back and it's normal to feel that, but if you don't feel it anywhere else, then
Yeah.
there's a problem there.
Yeah.
And secondarily, if you don't recover from that,
Also not great.
also not great.
Yeah.
Then we're missing the mark. It's
Yeah.
like, yes, you need to train your lower back and your lower back can be sore.
Should be number one.
Well, I don't know that I would say that.
Okay.
What I would say is, if you wake up tomorrow and you're so stiff that you can't bend over,
Yeah.
and you feel like you perceive that it hurt you, then we need to work on that as a coach.
Okay.
There's difference. It's
Yeah.
also how they perceive it.
Okay.
But it is on you to say, it's normal to feel your lower back a little bit here.
Yeah.
What I want to know is how you feel after when you wake up tomorrow.
Okay.
And you don't say anything else. Don't put it in their brain. You cannot, this is weird language, you guys are in healthcare. You cannot unhear what you hear, you cannot unsee what you see, right? So, don't put it in their brain and say, let me know if your lower back hurts tomorrow. All you say is, what I want to know is how you feel when you wake up tomorrow. Don't say anything else. Zip it. Don't give them an expectation because they'll hold on to it. Placebo, nocebo. You have to know both.
I
Okay?
if anything, you're on the side positive, right? I feel like,
Cheat them a little bit.
yeah, I feel like
Right.
you're gonna feel great in the morning.
You're like, yeah, you're gonna have a little pump in your back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell me how that pump feels.
negative expectation in their brain. They'll come back and be like, deadlifts are horrible for me, and you'll be like, well,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do now?
So, like, is a little soreness okay, just not like extreme soreness? Okay.
I would call that training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like
Right?
it's like you can say it as any other muscle. Like if your quads are sore, not a bad thing. But if they're so sore that you're struggling.
I don't make any prediction. I don't say anything other than, because even in clinic, they're like, oh, I feel my back on that. I go, great. I want to know how you feel in 12 to 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, just push it off.
Say less.
Yeah.
Say less. Okay. How would I modify a deadlift with load and volume? Kettlebell deadlifts are great. Reverse hypers are my favorite thing on the planet. I don't have a person with back pain who doesn't get reverse hypers and it doesn't get better. How do I do them in an area where I don't have reverse hyper? I'm so glad you asked.
I actually was going to.
I had to ask for this
Here,
because you actually gave me
Tuck
these.
the knees, press the knees out.
What if their legs are longer than that?
Float it up on a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But that's like the easiest modification. I don't like Supermans.
No. It's all lumbar.
All lumbar extension.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. Unless you're gonna put a towel between their feet, like you have to go to a Superman.
Yeah.
If you put a towel between someone's feet, they won't hyperextend their low back.
So then for a 7-year-old, how do you feel who couldn't hold in that position or do anything in that position? How do you feel about like we have the back extension ghetto machine?
Like a 45?
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. We just do it more glute dominant focused, which is really matter.
They did this study a couple of years ago. They did one set of 45-degree back extensions to fatigue, and the incidence of back pain dropped 50%. One set per week to fatigue, and you could use any low back
So
exercise.
basically our program is just gonna be one set of those and then 10 minutes of bike sprints and then we can send them home.
1 minute of bike sprints.
Alright.
Well,
So
you can
literally we
say
can
every
change our
day.
programs to be 11 minutes long and we'll
30
just
minutes,
crank
yeah.
these
Yeah.
pints, we don't have to do anything but those two things. I like this
We're gonna
business
do
model.
more.
I mean, really where
Yeah.
you're going is
And deadlifts.
Deadlifts. Yeah, I can't.
deadlifts are everything. But you could also have them go over bench and just do one leg at a time,
Oh, yeah, okay.
right? Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Mhm.
But the idea is that they can finish like by pressing the heels on.
Right.
So you go and it's here. So you're actually finishing with that extension.
Look at having-
It's a bird dog, but it's supported. And the reason I like it better is because this is what I see with bird dogs.
Yeah. Yep.
If you want to waste your time, then do them that way, where you drop and everything's like. The foot needs to go back. Here,
Yeah.
right? So I like it better than a bird dog. It's a little more back specific. But yeah. And then single leg RDLs are so well tolerated by everybody, right? Okay. So load and volume if they can't deadlift. Range of motion you can change, right? Block pulls, rack pulls. This is the sciatica question. This is like, I'm starting to reintroduce deadlifting, where they come in and they're like, I just can't in the bottom, right? I would start block pulls, rack pulls. You can go block pulls with the kettlebell, just free up the range of motion, right? Range of motion is huge in deadlifting because keeping them like, keeping them hinging, it's super important as far as the low back. So it's like, it can be like rack pulls from above the knee. I don't care where it is, right? You just have to decide for your client if it's like, if they can only hinge to here, right, in standing, then it's hip thrust. You have to make a decision based on what they can tolerate. If you don't find that block pulls or rack pulls are beneficial, then it's the hip thrust. This is the sciatica go-to. People who have leg pain, who can't hinge, they can hip thrust. Why? Because the knees and hips are flexed. And the knees are never straight. Right? So instead of neural tension here, all the tension is off. But don't like be afraid to put a bar across their hips. Right? put a barbell across their hips with a hip pad, maintain the stimulus, right? I use hip thrusts all the time.
Yeah.
All variations. Single leg, landmine. If they can't deadlift, right? Or you don't like their deadlift pattern because they're new to training, hip thrust them. It's a deadlift in a different angle. So best modification for a deadlift is hip thrust. Sumo deadlift will sometimes be tolerated because they're wider, their torso's a little different, and there's the knee pressure is different. I don't love the sumo deadlift as much. I go to a hip thrust because I feel like I can load them up a lot heavier and get the stimulus of the deadlift that I want. Primarily. Questions on hip thrusts?
What if the hip thrust is the antagonist, so that's what causes the pain with the deadlift?
What I would look at is what the hell they're doing with their pelvis in the hip thrust. Because people start doing hip thrusts and they don't maintain stability here.
So back extension.
So I end up seeing a lot of people and we have to cue them because they do this. So they're getting like just a ton of like twerking versus what I tell people is eyes need to stay in front of you and you pivot from the shoulder blade. So they're still doing a isometric hinge here.
But their pelvis is stable.
Yeah, I mean because they'll just do this like, you see people do bridges, right? And they're like,
Kind of like the bird dog thing.
totally, you have to train this part of it, right? Through the whole thing. You know, that's what I would say. If they're not tolerating hip thrust but a deadlift, that's weird to me. So I would see like, what are we doing from like, they're probably a person that doesn't tolerate extension of their low back. So they're just dropping into that all the time, right?
We have weird stuff happening in
Everybody's a snowflake is what I tell them. I tell everybody, I'm like, you're all snowflakes. So there's no one
That's
catch
being
all.
quoted and going all over the
Don't-
internet. Abby says you're all snowflakes.
You're all snowflakes,
That's
you're
your
all
problem.
unique. But yeah, from a like, why that would be, I would say they're probably like not tolerating extension, and that's all they're doing in the hip thrust because they don't have the like awareness, right? That's what I would say. But without seeing them do it, I don't know. Take a video and send it to me.
Right?
All right, vertical pulling. We won't spend very long on here, but people who are tolerating pulling, whether it's vertical or the altered angle or whatever, positions at the top or the bottom are where you want to train, right? This will come into play. We'll talk about pulling necessarily. I'll throw it in now with the tennis elbow. Tennis elbow. What is tennis elbow?
No, it's pickleball elbow.
Pickleball elbow.
It's pickleball
Overuse. It's all overuse with little variance in grip training. Usually what I see. Change the grip. Change the grip. Isometrics at the top. You can get, because it's like, how do we load grip? Maybe they can't tolerate a farmer's carry. Can they tolerate like an inverted row in an underhand grip and get some grip strength there? Right, so tennis elbow is it's so like unique to the person that it's hard to give a global idea, but what you want to do train is like the opposite grip. So if it's tennis elbow, most of the time they don't tolerate pronated grips very well. Take them to an underhand grip, right? If it's the inside of the elbow, pronate.
Would you go to a neutral?
Neutral is sometimes hit or miss. I haven't found consistency on neutral with people. What I will do though is play around with like their grip strength.
Because I've tried the same too, and it varies also.
Yeah,
for the
neutral is kind of hit or miss because of like the pronation versus supination element that goes with the two. So really you start thinking about, it can be a tough one to train around for sure, but like varying the implement will usually be your biggest friend, right? So change the implements for sure.
I found too, I'll mess with like having them change what their wrist position is and even like where they're pulling their shoulder. Just because it's like wrist flexors seem to change, so sometimes that makes it better.
Yeah.
Like when Pam was dealing with all her stuff on a couple of things, and she was doing
okay, this feels fine. And she went heavier. I'm like, all right, keep doing that. Like, I had no idea what was gonna work, but
Yeah.
I just keep.
It's just so dependent on the person with that one. If I'm happy to talk to somebody who ever had that particular question about a case, but tennis elbow and golfer's elbow, which is the inside, whatever. But it's just very like, that person is either, well, they're almost always weak up top, right? So it's a matter of, can I just like band them in a way to work their upper body without having the grip piece of it? But we tend to think of, like, forget about training the rest of the body. So in tennis elbow, they need tricep strength. In golfer's elbow, they need bicep strength. So find ways of playing with that. But really, it's change the implement first, see if you can kind of get them out of that over gripping. Usually they're over gripping because they stink up here. More often than not. Again, with all pulling, pressing, it's change grip, and then thinking about changing the intensity of their movement. So, you know, vertical pulling, you think going inverted rows or even TRX straps, which give a lot of freedom for grip movement, changing the angle, right? And just going for more volume, those sorts of things. The idea is just to keep training it, because they can't grip anything, right? Or they have shoulder pain. The best thing around the shoulder to do is to change the angle and see if you can maintain the load by changing the angle. So whichever it is, it's the opposite, right? If they can't bench, right, can they tolerate like vertical? And if they can't horizontally pull, can I like vertically pull? You know, you just invert the angle, you work in the opposite direction, because it's about just maintaining the use, right? So I love an inverted row, I use it all the time. And yes, I will be mean to people and put their feet on the box.
We do
It's like
too.
fully inverted, yeah. So, why not? Pressing. Shoulder pain, probably third most common maybe. Back, knee, shoulder, hips kind of in there somewhere maybe. Isometrics. 90-90 is usually where I would start. You ever done a bottoms up 90-90? What do they do though? They do that.
Yeah.
Make sure they stay 90-90. Right? I haven't really found any shoulder pain that can't tolerate that. If the kettlebell's not light enough, then I take a light dumbbell and I hold it like, have them hold it like that so the bell's up here. So it's vertical. So you can go as light as you need to. The rules are the same, 30 seconds or so. Make them carry it. Right? And then work your way through and get all the way through.
I think it's better to have an ISO versus that up and down to progress.
I would always start with the ISO and then work my way into the, again, tension development is a good place to start. There's no right or wrong, it's just what the person in front of you can tolerate. So that's really what your job is to do, is to have like your system of approach to say, I start here, and if they don't tolerate that, then I try this, and I'm just collecting data all the time. Okay? But yeah, you can go, the best thing about using bottoms up is it's ISO of the whole arm, because the grip is working so hard. It's lighter, so you've modified load and intensity, but it feels so hard that they actually feel like they're working. That's where the secret sauce is with that one. The thing we don't see a ton of, or I don't in gyms, people don't think about doing, is Z-press. You can't lift very much. So it naturally reduces the intensity of the movement. It is, I mean, it's a bit humbling. I was gonna say humiliating, but I wasn't humbling. But Z-press is probably one of the things from like, I'm not tolerating the load of moving into overhead press, right? Because it's going to drop the load quite a bit and work so much of the upper back, which they need, for sure. And then I like moving to half kneeling because there's so much torso involved, the stability of the torso. And you can do any variation of like bottoms up in the half kneeling. You can do I also really like going to an Arnold press because it lengthens the time. modification standpoint, it really, with the shoulder, is who's in front of you and what can they tolerate. Okay. Questions on any of those? Good on them? Okay. What do I do with somebody who's so tight in their hamstrings that their knees don't look like that? They can't Z press because their knees are like, you set them up for a Z press and they're like reclined. What would you do?
So leave their butt like 2 inches, 3 inches.
Or butterfly their legs?
Yeah.
They have to be upright though. If you try to Z press a client and they're laying back, it's not gonna feel good. They have to be upright. So sit them on a couple pads, bend it, like butterfly the knees as you need to, right? But what you're doing is just taking out like the legs and the low back piece of it so they can work the overhead press. But if they're laying back, it's not gonna work. If somebody comes in, they're like, my shoulder hurts. If you do isometrics and you have to modify the movement, it should be some landmine version. Because you modify range of motion. You also get a lot more serratus activity because it's not just pressing the bow, you're trying to shove the bow into the collar is the cue I give them. You're trying to push that collar away and up. So you're getting a lot of serratus to help get that scap doing what it's supposed to do. And it's naturally, you can progress it, right? So you set them up and they're driving it and maybe they can't bench and they can't overhead press, but they can go right in the middle. I want to work them in an isometric fashion, have them finish it. Lean them through. They're overhead, but the weight's not stacked on top of the joint. So I can do that as a like in between. It's like we're gonna work the press, we're gonna get to that overhead, and then work our way through that at the same time. It's like very easy to progress them into overhead. They may not be able to do this, but if you landmine them, they can get there, right? And then you're getting all that stacked into there. Does everybody know what a Philly press is? Perfect. Questions on any of that? Okay. This is one of the last things we'll talk about, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. When to refer out. This is kind of like the punch list that Emma and I talk about, like, this is the conversation I have with people on the phone. Well, when should I come and see you, or should I see you? Pain is greater than 5 out of 10. Okay, look, 9 is somebody is murdering me. If they come in and they're cool and they're calm and they're like, my pain's 9, they should be like red in the face, they're having a blood pressure response.
Losing bowels.
Losing bowels. 9 is childbirth without medication, is what they say. So, 5 out of 10, interrupted sleep.
Is that really what they say?
No, that's what we all need to tell clients.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
that's so helpful.
Yeah.
That's what they say. That's how they like try to give the.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I'll find people.
So interrupted sleep, they just cannot they just can't sleep. They can't get comfortable. Sleep is everyone knows it in this room. It's the #1 recovery tool. If they can't sleep, they're not going to get better.
I have an asterisk question.
Okay.
To that, just really quick before I forget it. So, no, it has nothing to do with me this time. So, the greater than 5,
Yeah.
for how long? Like, let's say they have an isolated incident, and it's greater than 5 for like a day, 2 days, 3 days. If it's ever greater than 5,
I would say if they come in here and they're like, I'm in 7 out of 10 pain, I would put them on a bike, give them some cardio intervals, see how they move around. If I didn't change that at all within session, then I'm like, maybe we need to think about, I'm at least having the conversation as a coach. I want you to maybe be thinking about we need to bring some other practitioners on board.
so that's kind of where I was going.
It's
with that.
really the question of like, they're telling you that, okay, well your job is now to ask more questions. How's sleep? How long's it been going on? Right? And then it's just planting that seed so they don't get like, they don't then not come in for a week and you're like, oh right, they were saying their shoulder hurt and I haven't seen them for a week.
Right.
You call and they check in and they're like, oh, I've just been resting.
Right. And I guess it's
Right.
for me, it's for the context for the team, so they
Yeah.
know, because we do get people.
Totally.
Like, oh, like
Totally.
I went on a hike and now
Yeah.
like my knee hurts and
Yeah.
it's like a 7 today, and you're like, cool, we're gonna take it easy, put on a bike,
Yeah.
whatever. They come in the next day, they're fine.
Yeah.
No referral out, right? So that's what I'm
Completely.
saying. Like,
Yeah, it's like, it's just planting that, like, how are we responding to
Right.
it? Yeah. But if they come in,
If it's been going on like day 2, 3, 4, you know, that's when
day
you're like,
2 or 3,
okay,
it's like for sure, like we need to start thinking about,
hey, like,
if you're having the conversation as a coach, make sure we're like hydrating,
Yeah.
like we're getting elements in, we're eating enough.
Cool.
Then you're asking, now you're starting to get data, it's like, oh, I can't sleep, so they're not recovering, they're still coming, they know it's good for them.
right.
But maybe now we're starting to get frustrated, they're stuck, you wanna prevent the resting part of it. And usually the tick of it, in my opinion, is at least then if they call, whether it's me or they decide to call anybody else, it's like I'm having the same conversation of, well, we want to keep you in the gym, but like let's like try to get a finger on like what else is going on, so that we don't get to the I've taken 2 weeks off, I've taken a month off, right? And now it's like now everything else is weak. The other part is presence of numbness or tingling, for sure. That's neuro. That's nerve, right? Like, use cardio when that comes up, but be like very careful.
Our rule is if
It can be
there's-
very irritating. It can happen
they go to,
quickly.
we tell them this.
Yeah. And then this is the one that probably applies most in here. No return to their prior level of function, meaning, oh, my knee's hurting, so we're not gonna squat for a week, we're gonna work our way through, it's improving. We try to squat in a week and it still doesn't get any better, then that's like, okay. It's not just inflammatory, there's now something going on. So if you modify the movement in a week or so, like maybe 10 days, they still can't get back to that movement, then I would say it's time to get ahead of it. People tend to wait too long. Then they're frustrated. So that's kind of our job of like, no, like if it's gonna get better on its own, it's probably gonna do it in a week. If it didn't, it's probably not.
They already waited 30 years to start at a gym because they thought they would get fit
Yeah.
and healthy without
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The biggest
If you think it's hard to get them in here, it's almost harder to get them in my door because they're like, well, do I
they're
really
basically
need
done
it?
at that
Right,
point.
yeah, so. People with repeated injuries. This is the person where you're like, oh, we're modifying this because your elbow was hurting and now that's better, but now we're modifying this because your knee is hurting, right? That person. It's time to maybe have a conversation of, well, we have this, we should bring somebody else on board, otherwise we're just kind of running this hamster wheel. Something bigger could be going on. Who knows? And then the client who wants to rest. I put that up there because sometimes all they need to hear isn't from you, they need to hear it from like a practitioner to say, you need to keep exercising. The best thing for you is to stay exercising, right? Usually it's just building that relationship of saying, right, my coach said that, or Block said that, but of course they did because I work out there and da 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 da. Well, now I'm hearing it from another source who's telling me how important exercise is, and that helps them kind of like build. Again, we're building like.
The worst one is the argumentative of the, well, my shoulder's been hurting, so my doctor says I cannot work out for 3 months. And I'm
Right. So okay.
Great. Yeah, you should just sit around and do nothing because your legs are broken now too, I forgot.
Right. So right. That's where it's like that's the team approach to like healthcare at this point. The more people we can keep out of the healthcare system, the better their success rate in life.
I mean, no joke, that's like a client change form for cancellation that came through just last
Yeah.
week. That was, he's like, my shoulder hurts, my doctor said take 3 months off exercise, and I'm like,
I know.
you need a new doctor.
For sure.
Who are you seeing?
Right. I mean, I think at that point it's like
That was argued, by the way, for other people.
it's hard to argue once they get to that point. The thing to do is to try to get ahead of that, and it's like the person is like, oh, my shoulder's been hurting. I think I'm gonna go see my doctor. It's like, did you know you don't need a referral to like
Go to PT.
go to PT or call these people.
And that's what we do, but
Right.
sometimes they don't say anything, we
Totally.
get no clue, and
Totally.
they're like,
It's
oh, my
hard
shoulder.
when you're
And I'm
trying
like,
to
why didn't you say
change that narrative for sure. It's super frustrating, but if we can keep them out of there. Again, you can't treat an image, right? 50% of people over 50 have disc herniation on imaging without symptoms. Your imaging doesn't mean garbage. It tells us nothing.
And I'm sure you guys feel it too,
So I have come to a place in my career where I know I can't save everyone.
Yeah, like your doctor.
So I'm not going to argue.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's no wiggle room. I get a lot of people on the other end of it who are like, well, they said I might have to have this, and I'm like, well, let's try this first, right? But yeah, your argument to that person is, well, did the other rest of your limbs fall off? We can just train 3 limbs,
Exactly what I do.
right? So it is an uphill. That's like banging your head into a wall. Can't save everyone.
It's like 40, 50, 60 years of programming sometimes. Of like in my head they're like surgical patients. That like the moment something hurts, like I'm going to see my surgeon to get a consult. It's like how long does it hurt for? Like 2 days. And it's like you're seeing a surgeon for this? Like yeah, he tells me that what I need. And so
I know.
those are those conversations where it's like they're so quick.
Yeah.
They're like, I just want surgery to fix this. That it's like, what if we just waited a little bit?
Next generation.
Just try to not do that.
You can't save everyone.
Yeah.
Save the ones you can, because it's your place to say, to educate them or send them my direction, and I'm happy to have that argument with them.
Sure.
Or at least try to enlighten them a little bit. I would say that if somebody is already considering the surgical approach, I would say I have about 50% success of getting them to see me and not the surgery.
Yeah.
But it's 50%.
Yeah.
So you can't change somebody's mind, but you can try to arm them.
Yeah.
Typically, those people have already had multiple surgeries.
Oh yeah.
Right, and so you're battling their expectation, for sure. But you have to save your energy for the other people, is what I would tell younger clinicians or trainers. It's like, you're not gonna save everyone. There are plenty of people to save. Only like 1 in 10 people are reading exercise guidelines. Let's focus on the people that we can save. Anyway, we'll do some questions here. I'm gonna answer the how do I load people? What tools do I use to show them that they're underloaded? Okay.
You have to put out something.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
see you this week.
Okay.
Everyone.
The biggest tool that I will use. I used to do a lot of 5x5 in the clinic with people on lifts. The last set is an AMRAP. So I let them build because they're afraid of weight.
I'm in.
So they do like 5x5 and we're building in weight, right? And then the last set I say, okay. Because now they're confident in the movement. I didn't tell them at the beginning, but I let them build slowly. They're like, yeah, this feels good. I go, great. We're gonna do as many reps as possible. And I'll let you know if I don't like how you're moving and I'll stop you. So I create that. And it can be any movement, but I am wrap on the last set.
You're gonna fuck it over.
If it's like, for sure. But what we're talking about is the people who are afraid to load. So you've got them doing like a goblet squat or whatever, right? And they don't even look like they're straining. And you're like, on the last set, I'm gonna count, I want you to do as many reps as you can. And you can stop them at technical breakdown.
Sure.
But if they do like, if you program 12 and they do like 25, I mean, you're sitting there then having a conversation of saying, we want to get stronger, build muscle, and change our body composition, but you just did 25 reps. Like, you're leaving so much in the tank. Like, our body's not going to change if you've got 13 reps in reserve, right? That is the clearest way that I build. Like, you're so underloaded. I just AMRAP on the last set of a complex movement. Totally. That's what I do.
I love that.
Yeah. Quick, dirty, they don't know it's coming. It's a little exciting.
Yeah.
You watch them, especially if it's like your compound lift. You've got a good spot, and you're like, you're watching them strain, and they're learning what strain looks like, right? And they've got you right there to kind of like handhold them, right? Pump them up. So that would be how I would do it with just about everything. Hip thrust, bench, push-ups, squat, beds. I AMRAP that crap all the time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Because a lot of times I'm getting people after they've been out for 8-10 weeks. And it's like, well, I don't know where you're at. I have no idea where you're at. But we're at a place where we can start deadlifting. So we're going to do 5x5. And on the last set, you're going to give me as many reps as you can. And that tells me then I'm way under. Easy. Easy. because they don't know what reps of reserve is.
Yeah.
They don't have a clue. Not until you AMRAP them.
Yeah.
That helps you as the programmer. You're like, shit, we're only doing 18-pound goblet squats to a box, and you just did 30. Maybe we can do a little more. And that will also help their overall bonus. But yeah, just AMRAP them. That's what I would do.
I think the key component on that, you guys, is just making sure you are watching at the end.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of people who will sandbag it, right?
Totally.
So they know that it's an AMRAP and they're just like, I like counted some. And then, like, if you're not there,
Yeah.
at this point holding them accountable, they'll stop. They'll just get up. Like,
Yeah.
that happens here all the time. I'm like,
Right.
okay, it's as many reps as possible. They're like, well, I did 10. And I'm
It
like,
burned a little.
Can you do more? No, I can't. And I'm like, okay. Okay.
Again, you know, like you're giving them the tools.
Right.
You're gonna meet them where they are, but it's like, okay, now that's your 10 rep max. Perfect. Next time.
Have you done a 5x5 with them or something to that effect the week before, or is it just fresh out the gate? Because I would think for our clientele, more often than not, I'd want to know. It's like, what week are you in your training plan on this? Week 2? Okay, perfect. Now I know they've at least done the move. I don't want to like have their week 1 and then be trash because I AMRAP them because they are so weak. Does that make sense?
The chances that if they do it, depending on the intensity, right?
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
talking 5x5. Like
Right.
if they're really at like a 5x5, that should be like 85%.
What if?
Like they can only do 5. Now this is what I'm talking about is the person comes in and I don't know where they are, so they then deadlift like 15. I'm like, all right, they're not going to be wrecked.
Yeah.
They're also not going to get nervous. Like the idea of the AMRAP set is the person who is so underloaded, and you're like, dude, you think that's hard? It's
Yeah.
written 3x8, and on the last set you did 30.
Right.
Like, like add 10 pounds or add 20 pounds. Like, right? It's that person who you got to know who to use it with,
Yeah.
right? So you'll kind of iron that out as you go. It's not the person who's like been squatting like 2 times, right? They're still learning the pattern.
Right.
But these are the people who are like,
And then you're
I don't know if I
4
should
months.
go up, or it's like I'm not seeing. This is when the person's like, I'm not seeing the changes,
Yeah.
right? Well, do you have a clue how to straighten? Like, let them do an AMRAP set. Just give them some freedom, but you do have to be there. You have to build the relationship that handhold. Otherwise, like they'll put the mental block in. But you're just sitting there, you're going, they look great. You look great. Like keep going. Like you're cheering them on like it's a one-on-one, right? And they'll give you a couple extra. You'll see it. And you'll be like, all right, you're supposed. This is what's written.
Yeah.
Next time, it's like we're gonna do a 35-pound bell instead of 20. You know, like it's really just about building confidence. People are really kind of fearful of getting injured, so they stay underloaded.
Yeah.
But if you just drop that in there every once in a while with a client here or there, you'll like sharpen up how good you are with
Would
it.
you use like a 1 rep max calculator to say they did 30 with XYZ
No.
and then just
If-
figure it out? You're like, so you really should be at 25 according to like. Would you
If
feel
they're
that?
no, if it's north of like 8, I don't use a 1 rep max calculator.
Yeah.
In the 5 to 8, I will use it, but I just use it as like.
More, I was just really like, here's proof that you
Yeah.
should be using a 25 instead of a 5.
Because it's right, because it's so like once you like you deadlift 100 for like 30, and it's like your 1 rep max is 500 pounds. You're like, I can't even put that on the bar without hurting myself. There's like it stops being so accurate,
Right.
So
I was more trying to justify it, but they'll still argue with you and pick up an 8-pounder.
yeah, you totally can do that, but like the idea should be right. The idea is that I'm taking it out of my hands and I'm proving to them.
No, it's so good.
That, hey, you're supposed to be doing this for 8 reps. We just did an AMRAP and you did like 16, 17, 18, whatever it is. Like we want to be more accurate to get the changes that you want. More strength, more muscle, like better capacity out of here. So that we're not like 1 rep max living. That's really what we're doing in here is getting people to stop living at their 1 rep max. Other questions?
I just have a side note for the coaches with this because we can't always be with the clients that we program this AMRAP for. If you're ever with someone and see them doing something and sandbagging a little bit, feel free to on the last set be like, hey, Even if it's like, just go outside of whatever we've programmed for them, be like, I'm gonna be here with you, same thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna do an AMRAP on this last one, I just want you to run it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you when, I got you covered, we'll keep this
Yeah.
going. 'Cause
I would just like, take one client this
Yeah.
week and do it with one client and see how it goes.
Or with
Because you're gonna be a little rusty on the delivery because you're gonna be
AMRAP is
nervous.
rear deadlifts.
The single arm cable rear delt flies, AMRAP it, yeah.
Well, the deal with hypertrophy, right? is it's got to be done to
I
your
know.
That's the other deal with people who want to underload.
Yeah.
Is hey, you can stay at that weight, but we're not going to be anywhere near doing
Yeah.
what you want unless we get near fatigue.
Yeah.
So
gotta
you
do
can
it.
do 30 or 50 reps. It'll just take you a lot longer,
Yeah.
but you'll at least get a training effect.
Mhm.
You know that part of it.
Yeah.
But the AMRAP is really just building confidence because you have to be there.
Yeah, and it's a moment to like connect with them and like hype them up. I've done it a few times and it's fun.
Oh, it's
then
so
they're
great.
like, oh shit,
They're like, shit, I can't believe you did
I
12
didn't know
with
I did
that.
that. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Mostly just confidence. Anything else?
I just have one on the each front interval ratio.
Love it. Go ahead.
Like how do you teach that with clients?
It's
And then-
more about your, like, so it's easier with endurance, but in strength training, if you wanted to get in the nitty gritty of that, it would be like your training volume, like timing, like calculating out what the load would
I think you said
the overall tonnage
Yeah.
per se.
Totally. And then what you do with it is rate and intensity to it.
That's more what
It gets a
I
little
had
messy
heard
with
of
that.
it when she was doing some like very trying to PR a half marathon.
Yeah, yeah.
And so equated it to intensity level of the workout
Totally.
and
Yeah.
then the mileage that was being tracked. So
Yeah.
from a mileage standpoint, that was easy.
Yeah. In here, I look at it, the way I do it, I've done it for myself, is I take my training log, right? And I actually just do, like time of the session and then the intensity. And it's subjective, but it at least gives me an idea of like, am I having like 4 days a week at like 8 out of 10 in 1 week? And if I'm maintaining that for too long,
Right.
right, I kind of use it loosely that way.
Yeah.
But the idea is really just to give you an idea that, hey, if somebody's trying to ramp up, if
Right.
they're doing too much too soon, too fast, it's a recipe for injury.
Right.
But the alternative of it is the person who is only exercising 2 days a week is living at such a low capacity that they're also at risk for injury. It's the person who comes in here 2 days a week, right? And they're like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this in 6 months. And you're like, hey.
Yeah.
Now it's really there to give you an idea of a conversation starter of
Right.
this person's gonna do this, but they're not gonna change anything. It's that like spike in activity.
Right.
That person is living with like the spike is like gonna wreck them, whereas the person who's in the red and overdoing it,
Yeah.
anything can set them off,
Right.
right? Because there's all the big buckets. Like if their stress goes up,
Their sleep.
they'll get
that
injured.
indicator.
If they don't sleep well one night, they don't recover. If
Right.
they're south on their hydration and their electrolytes, they get hurt. If they don't eat well or they go out to eat, they're hurt the next day. Like that person is living in like one little thing can go wrong. And I see that a lot because people are like, oh, I was feeling really good. I've had these little tweaks here and there, but like they come in and I don't know why I got hurt.
Right.
And I go, okay, well, what's been going on outside of like exercise? Oh, you know, like I've been traveling a lot for work. Or, you know, it's the beginning of the school year and now I've got kids scheduled. There it is. It doesn't have to be that they did anything wrong in here. Like that's the thing that I have a lot of conversations with clients. It's like we might have some technical things going on in here, but it may have nothing to do with what's going on in here. Oftentimes it doesn't.
Right.
Usually it's the ecosystem. I have that conversation with people all the time. Your ecosystem. This is just a part of your ecosystem. It's the other levers that have to be pulled. Usually.
Another client whose knee and ankle started hurting, and she just started the school year. She's the principal of a big high school and just got the lawsuit and was like, this split squat just really hurt my
Yeah.
ankle. And I was talking to her, and I knew this was happening. I was like, hey, let's just try it. talk about this lawsuit and how stressful that is. And she was like, oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
It helped in the session.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, great. I'm just gonna try this. So.
You know, yeah, for sure. So you have to be, you know, if things are hurting but they're moving really well, or generally they're a good mover, your mindset as the coach is saying, well, maybe it's something as simple as let's get you an IV bag. Just have the IV bags come to like get a mobile IV drip. Let's see if we just hydrate, or let's add 20 grams of protein. It's like it might not be a movement problem; it might be the other buckets. And then you use modification so that they can stay in it, and that person still wants to work hard because they're using it to emotionally regulate.
Yeah.
So you have to find which of those modifications allows them to feel like they're working hard versus they're coming here and it's like, I didn't get to work hard. You have to know that piece of it and respect that part of it. And it can be as simple as, well, let's try it, but in between, just go give me a 15-second all-out sprint on bike. Cool. I worked their legs, I got a blood flow pump,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get growth hormone, I'm gonna get stress regulation because they're just gonna like rage out on the echo bike, right? Totally. If like their irritability is low to moderate, let them beat themselves up over there
Yeah.
in between, and then like work the like other movements,
Yeah.
right? Like nobody ever wants to do it, but if you tell them to do it,
Yeah.
bike sprint.
I'll do it.
Bike sprints are like the cure for everything. Most stiffness, if you have them do, I will have people do like, even before I do anything in the session. They come in, oh, I feel like crap. Cool. We have an assault bike in the clinic. 5 minutes, 50 seconds easy, 10 seconds, all out. As hard as your body is able to go. Build intensity, and by the time they're done with that, they're already like, I feel better. I didn't do anything. Blood flow,
You did a lot.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Right. So blood flow, right? That's kind of like, that's where I would go with most of that.
I have a question about sciatica stuff.
Love it.
I had someone walk in yesterday, and I've talked to a few PTs about this as well,
Okay.
and I don't want to diagnose them, but I want to be able to like know when to refer out. So she
Totally.
came in, and maybe you guys have talked about it, but I can't remember. But I know sciatica has very specific diagnostic criteria, right?
Yeah.
And she came in,
Listen though.
glute pain,
Mhm.
no shooting, none in the heel, no burning.
Yeah.
But she had a handful of paperwork from her husband that was PT stuff from his sciatica, and was like, if this doesn't feel better today, I'm gonna go to urgent care. And I, asked, like, does it shoot down your leg?
Yeah.
Can you hinge? Does it hurt when you do this?
Yeah.
And she didn't go to urgent care. I had to roll on a lacrosse ball.
Yeah.
And do some like light
Mhm.
hinging. But is it okay, like, to say, like, if you don't have pain shooting down?
I
in
would
your
not
heel-
call it sciatica if you don't have leg pain.
Okay, perfect. That's what I said to her. And I was like, maybe just your glutes locked up.
So
Let's just
piriformis
go-
syndrome is like 6%.
Oh,
It's like an overdiagnosed problem.
This is like the new sciatica.
Yeah.
I talked to her today. I asked her how she was doing, and she
Oh, Marianne?
Mhm.
Okay.
And she was like, I feel a lot better now
Oh,
that I'm
perfect.
moving, and like my blood's flowing, and
Okay.
Totally.
I'm stretching up my glutes, and so she, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But that is
wonderful.
probably just like a low back referral.
Yeah, I was gonna say that our first main
Hard to know. But yeah, so piriformis syndrome is overdiagnosed. Because I think it's just easy for people to grab onto it and they're like, oh, I just need to
Well,
pull a ball in
yeah,
my
I
back.
think
people
what
like
the
diagnosis.
syndrome is like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what I got.
They love it. People love it.
People love to be in a box. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
I hear
let's
the
not
word
do that.
piriformis so much at work, and I just want to be like, guys, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right into
So-
that lazy ass.
Yeah, but I would say if you're not having below glute symptoms, like leg symptoms,
Yeah.
I struggle to call that sciatica.
Okay.
And I also would, like, there is a very distinct, like, nervy pain or a numbness or tingling that comes
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't even use the term sciatica, I call it radicular or radiculopathy.
Okay.
So, because sciatica is this kind of like, it's easier for people to understand, but still it's not even accurate because typically it's coming because you're getting referral from the spine coming down the sciatic nerve.
Yeah.
So it's usually spine referral. But yeah, if you're not having leg symptoms, and if you can hinge and put nerve tension on in your spine,
Yeah,
probably
that was
not
the first,
sciatica
that was
for
the first
sure.
thing I had her do, and I had her keep her knees relatively straight, like not bending, not squat into it.
Yeah.
And she hinged straight back, and was like,
Yeah.
no, that actually feels kind of good. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, probably extension tolerant low back pain. Which is the other side that we tend to forget because we
Yeah.
think about bending, but yeah,
Okay. Perfect.
yeah, I'd hip thrust that person.
Yeah. I didn't even dawn on me about the hip thrust for,
I would hip thrust them
that.
to death
Yeah.
because it's non-threatening.
yeah, because your knees are bent, so the nerves. are
Yeah,
being
there's no
pulled.
nerve tension. So if anybody has leg pain, you just try to hip thrust them.
Yeah. I took a note on my thing when you said that.
Yeah, there's been like
Oh,
3 things
fuck.
where I'm like, this is happening every time. This statement is being said now every time.
I think it says knee
Sound
bent,
like, yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're giving birth right now? Oh,
Yeah.
no, just that's what a 9 out of 10
Yeah,
is
that's
right
right.
now. I didn't realize we were having a baby right now in this
Yeah.
moment. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna be my go-to.
The other thing that I would say within what I look for within a session with somebody is I don't expect everything to be pain-free.
Yeah.
That
Right.
being said, if you're starting at a 3, don't let them be above a 5 within session.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's like kind of the buoy. I give
Our
them like 1 or
4
2.
is like our, if it's above a 4,
Yeah.
we're doing one of
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I give them like the 1 or 2 bump.
Yeah.
Like movement should drop it. It should, and not in all cases.
Sure.
There are specific problems that actually you need to create pain for them to get better.
sure, my whole thing is like joint replacement. I'll use that a lot of times because a lot of our clients have had it, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, you know when you go do that physical therapy, right after you get the joint replaced, they're cranking on it to get the range of motion, and
Yeah.
it hurts.
Yeah.
So I'll use that.
Yeah, I just figured I was about to that. I'm like, PTs are way worse.
Yeah,
not doing
totally.
anything.
Yeah. I mean, we're happy to take it.